When the January Forbidden list came out, I was really excited for Monarch players. They got one of their well-deserving cards off the Forbidden list, but I was secretly excited for the better deck, the more powerful deck, the deck that just happens to escape the Forbidden list every single time and is vastly underrated, and that is True Draco, with the ability to rid your opponent's boards now on their turn by attributing their monsters to advanced gear effects. I think that the deck is a lot better than before. I'm TheCaliEffect, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, then go and destroy that subscribe button. But more importantly, go ahead and that notification bell because, well, we just too strong. I also want to give a special thanks to every single one of my Patreons. Without you guys, videos like this would not be possible. I really do enjoy your continued support. Without further ado, I present to you a competitive True Draco deck profile for this format. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so before you guys go on pulling out your True Dracos from everywhere, let's get to the stats. It actually is as good as I'm hyping it up to be. I really do feel that True Draco is a tier 1.5 roguish type deck. I think it's good enough to top a YCS every here and there, maybe not consistently, but will definitely do a lot of work at the regional level depending on how many people decide to play it. The new Monarch Stormforth or Monarch Stormforth coming to 3 does give it a lot more ability to play and disrupt your opponent's boards, and that's what True Draco has always been good at. But let's start talking about the monsters so you can get better acclimated to the deck. We only run 8 of them, just 3 copies of Ignis, the True Draco Warrior. This is easily the best True Draco monster now, mainly because of his stats. He's 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense, and we're going to abuse that. Also, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can take 1 True Draco spell card and either add it to your hand or activate it. 2 copies of Majesty Maiden, the True Draco caster, and she's pretty good because when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can take 1 True Draco or True King card and add it from your deck to your hand. She is simply just to search your Ignis to make the deck a lot more powerful, and you don't necessarily use, or you do use them, but you don't necessarily rely on these effects. They're really powerful, but you really want that monster or certain monsters in your hand to start popping off with your plays. Next is 1 copy of Dynamite. He is at 1 with True King's Return at 1 for a reason. His ability allows him to activate or add a True King card from your deck to your hand. The more I think about it, the more I do think True King's Return can come off the list, but that's nonetheless, this card is insanely good because he is the strongest monster and he allows you to basically get any trap card to help rid your opponent's boards. We follow that up with 2 copies of Inspector Border, ladies and gentlemen. What this card does is essentially turn the game into our favor. Neither player can activate monster effects unless they control corresponding monsters, whether I believe it's Link, Ritual, Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xe, Pendulum, Link. They have to control monsters on the field before they can activate the effects. You would think that that would be hindering to us, but the way we get our True Draco monster effects is when our opponent activates their card effects, and that's pretty much how you pop off. Inspector Border prevents your opponent to activate monster effects, but if they do activate those monster effects, you can activate your True Draco card. So it's like, hey, sweet, it's a win-win situation for you. It shuts down so many decks, including Altergeist, and prevents them from getting off with their plays. It's just an insane card. Next is 3 copies of Dragonic Diagram for the spells. This is going to search any True King or True Draco card from your deck to your hand, and the only cost is destroying a card on your hand and field. It isn't really a cost. It destroys and adds in simultaneous, so it's pretty good. It's literally our reinforcement of the army of the deck. We actually run 5 with 2 copies of Terraforming, but that's it. On to the next cards. We run 3 copies of Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. This is our Pot of Avarice for the deck. For the people that are new to the True Draco strategy, which this is a pretty cheap deck, it's also really effective if you ask me. It's basically Pot of Avarice. It allows you to shuffle True Draco or True King cards from your graveyard to your deck and then draw a card. And then all of the True Draco spell cards give you an additional normal summon or additional tribute summon, and the True Draco monsters contribute spell and trap cards. So you can kind of like summon multiple times with this deck even though you only run 8 monsters. 3 copies of True Draco Heritage. This card actually allows you to draw cards depending on the different types of True Draco cards that are True King or True Draco cards that were destroyed on the field. Monster, spell, and trap, you get to draw up to 3 cards if all 3 were destroyed when you activated that effect. And then of course, it has the effect of you to different additional tribute summon, and all of the spell cards have the ability to destroy spell and trap cards when they're sent to the graveyard. That's it for the True Draco spell and trap cards. For the additional spell and trap cards, we run 3 copies of Pot of Card of Demise. This card is probably the most expensive card in the entire deck. It allows you to draw 3 free cards inside of this deck, which is just insane. We don't run a high monster count, so the odds of you discarding a monster at the end phase is minute, and sometimes inflicting damage isn't really important to us, just getting rid of our opponent's board, which this deck does really well with a surplus of cards in the hand. 2 copies of Pot of Duality. This deck does not special summon whatsoever. You could run 3 copies of Pot of Duality instead of the last card that I'm going to show you guys, but I just thought that 2 was really nice because having 2 in your hand is a bummer. You won't be able to activate 2 in one turn, and it's a really good card for being able to get to what you need. Now, to complement that Ignis, I run 2 copies of Tenacity of the Monarchs. This card allows you to reveal a Monarch monster, pretty much 2400 attack or 1000 defense, or 2800 attack and 1000 defense, to add a Monarch spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. The best thing about this card is that Ignis does fit the requirements of Tenacity, so you can literally search your copies of your Monarch Stormforth through Tenacity, which is just insane. If you have a problematic card, the only thing you need is Stormforth and a Monarch, which is your True Draco monsters. Tribute that bad boy and just get over your opponent's board. It is insane what this card can do for this deck. And then lastly, my super secret spicy tech. Pantheism can be whatever you want. It can be a 3rd duality, it can be escalation, it can be a 3rd tenacity, it can be a domain. It literally can be, I just want to say that this is a filler spot, but I think that it's really good because it allows you to cycle through your dead Monarch spell and trap cards, draw 2 cards, and it can search your Monarch spell and trap cards, so I thought that was pretty cool. But that's it for these spells. For the traps, we run 3 copies of True Draco Apocalypse. Now, all of the True Draco traps have 2 effects, or 3 effects, but 2 effects similar. The first effect is that you can tribute summon on your opponent's turn, and then the second effect is that you can, or if they're sent to the graveyard, you can destroy a monster your opponent controls. But what Apocalypse does is allow you to destroy another True King or True Draco card to half the attack of all your opponent's monsters. This is really, really good. When your opponent summons a monster bigger than 2800, because that's as big as his deck can go, you can just half that monster's attack and then attack over it, so it's really important. And then the 1 copy of True King's Return, it allows you to special summon a True Draco or True King monster from your graveyard to your side of the field. Unfortunately, it is limited to 1. We complement Tenacity of the Monarch with 2 copies of Monarch's Erupt. It is essentially a skill drain. What it does is activate this card only if you control no cards in your extra deck, which we don't play any extra deck cards, and also if we control a tribute summon monster. So if we play True Draco, monsters on the field cannot activate or negate the monster effects on the field. It's actually a difference between that. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field except tribute monsters. So it's like, why? What are we doing here? I can activate my True Draco cards and you can't activate anything else. The best thing about this card is that if you control no tribute summon monsters, it goes to the graveyard, but it's during your end phase, not during your opponent. So if they do get rid of your True King monsters, the effect still stays, and it will stay until the end phase of your turn. Then, of course, skill drain, because, I mean, negate monster effects. 2 copies of Waterfall of the Dragon Souls. This is a card that if you guys aren't really comfortable with, you could cut for other cards. I run no Floodgates. I don't really see a need for a Floodgate if you ask me, if I'm gonna just go ahead and tribute their monsters anyways, but these could be Rival of the Warlords or whatever you guys see fancy. I do think that this is really good with the Monarch Stormforth, because this plus a Monarch, or a trap True King trap card, and the Stormforth gets you everything you need to tribute your opponent's monster. And then lastly is that 1 copy of Imperial Order, because did you guys know you can tribute this if like you don't want it anymore, and it negates spells, so it's pretty good. Now that I'm done with the main board, there is no extra deck for this deck. Let's show you guys some test hands. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so on to the test hands. True Draco is like really fun. It's pretty consistent. It allows you to do just about anything you want to get exactly into what you need to disrupt your opponent. So we're gonna assume we're going first in all of these cases. I'm gonna draw Disciples, Duality, Apocalypse, and Dynamite. This is a really interesting hand, as we can start off with our Duality, revealing Majesty, Draco Caster, Monarch's Erupt, and the Monarch Stormforth, giving us plenty of options to add from our deck to our hand. We already have the skill drain, so the Monarch's Erupt goes back to the deck. I think that the Monarch Stormforth is really good, but unfortunately we don't have a surplus of monsters or Majesty made in our hand, so we can go ahead and actually add this back to the top of our deck as well, and then we can just go ahead and normal summon or activate the Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix, use it to normal summon our Dynamite, and set these 2 cards face down. The reason why I did it this specific way is because because Dynamite will be able to get me another trap. Why am I saying this? Or why am I, You guys know what I'm talking about. It's gonna allow me to activate a True King's Return, and then I can actually use it to disrupt my opponent to tribute one of my True Draco trap cards to disrupt, and I still have the skill drain in my hand. So it really isn't that much. That wasn't the greatest hand that True Draco can build out, bring out, but the deck's just overall consistent, powerful, and as long as your opponent plays YuGiOh, then you'll be able to gain some advantage with it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, True Draco's boards do look kind of underwhelming until you start actually playing the game and you're like, huh, this is pretty good. So opening into our second hand, we're gonna get Waterfall, we're gonna get Inspector Border, we're gonna get Apocalypse, Ignis, and we're gonna get a Monarch Stormforth. So this is still a pretty decent hand, as we can start off by normal summoning the Inspector Border and then setting the Apocalypse, the Waterfall, and the Stormforth face down. On our opponent's turn, we can use the Stormforth anytime we want to. Keep in mind, Stormforth doesn't have to, your opponent doesn't have to have a monster on the field for you to use Stormforth, and when they're starting to fall into your trap, you go ahead and Apocalypse, use their monster for a tribute, and now you have Ignis Heat on your side of the field. The Waterfall could be used to search an additional monster. Let's just say we draw that, and then we Waterfall for a Majesty. No, I wouldn't even Waterfall for Majesty. In this particular situation, I'd Waterfall for Dynamite, and we can then use our next Monarch Stormforth, or we can set it face down and then just go from there. We actually didn't even have to spring the Waterfall on them. We could have waited, set this card face down, controlled the board, then sprung the Waterfall to add the Dynamite again, and then activated our second Monarch Stormforth that we drew to tribute our opponent's monster again. That's gonna set them pretty far back. The third and final test hand. Again, and these are with not so great hands. I mean, they're not bad hands, as you guys can see. I can still play YuGiOh. I can still force my opponent not to play YuGiOh, but they're not the greatest of the hands. This is still all without Dragonic Diagram, ladies and gentlemen. And Diagram does add a little bit of flavor to the deck if you can start activating or popping off with your True Draco spell cards. So we're gonna draw Heritage, Apocalypse, Ignis, Stormforth, and a Majesty Maiden. This is a very interesting situation because in your head, you want to use the Apocalypse, tribute it off for the Ignis, and then the Heritage to draw one card, which would get you into the Dragonic Diagram. That's not bad. But in this particular situation, I would still play it pretty conservative. I just go right into the Heritage, into the Ignis, and then I would set these two cards face down. Keep in mind, I can still disrupt the board. I can still activate that True Draco Apocalypse using the Monarch Stormforth to tribute my opponent's monster, and if they activate monster effects, I can get two cards from my deck to my hand. One will more than likely be another, no, we don't really need Ignis, unless we so happen to rip a, Tenacity of the Monarch, but that's not really high. We're gonna go ahead and get Dynamite, and then we can go ahead and add a spell card. In this particular situation, we only have one of our cards in graveyard, so I'd go ahead and add that True Draco Heritage. So depending on what we get with our next card, I feel like Heritage is not a bad card right now. Depending on what we get with our next card, we can pop off with our combos. We draw into a Pot of Duality. We can Duality. Oh, sweet. We drew Tenacity of the Monarchs. We don't need that. We'll go ahead and add the second Apocalypse. Then we'll activate Heritage. Tribute the Apocalypse to summon Dynamite, potentially destroy another one of our opponent's cards. Activate Heritage to draw a Terraforming. Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, this is news. So then we can go Terraforming into Diagram. Diagram to destroy Heritage. We have 3. We're gonna draw another card through Disciples. Now, if we draw a card of Demise, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, today was a good day because the odds of us drawing monsters are pretty low. Not that we could have just used the Heritage effect to tribute. So even if we do draw like an Inspector Board or whatever, we are in a good spot. But that, it's gonna shuffle these 3 into my deck. And I mean, like, there are some cards that you don't want. Like, I don't want Tenacity right now. I don't want Pantheism right now. But other than that, we're in good hands, ladies and gentlemen. So Draco Phoenix for a Tenacity. That's unfortunate. The next card would have been another whatever. That's unfortunate, but it's still very useful in the later game states, mainly because the Majesty will be able to search me another Ignis, which I could follow up with the Tenacity. And I still have control over the board, which is the most important thing that True Dracos can do. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. I was going to say the Monarch Effect. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. And if you didn't, let us know what we could do to be better. Please like, comment, subscribe. But most of all, enjoy. I hope you guys are having a great day like I am.